Fussell, the engineer here at Mallett, and you notice that the screen behind me is blank because we're having some technical difficulties. So I'm recording this so that you can watch it later and not miss this great show. So, you know, I always spend a little bit of time talking about things other than Mallett building, whether it's some corny joke or some corny topic, but generally it's always corny. Today I wanted to take a little bit of time. I was thinking about how you have to be careful. You know, Tyler always spends time, and all the other guys spend time talking about be careful about the type of building that you choose and the contractor that you choose, if you type in Mallett Building, Louisiana, on Google, you'll see a lot of our competitors come up, and a lot of metal building guys come up, and you think, oh, it's all the same, and it's the same, but it's different. It's kind of like snakes, and that's what I thought about. So I went on the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries website, and there's a little pull down where you can look at all the venomous and non-venomous or poisonous and non-poisonous, or whatever, however you want to say it, snakes. And you know, looking back on it, so they call the cottonmouth, which we call the water moccasin, they call it the northern cottonmouth, which is kind of weird. Didn't know that. And but you know, if I look at that, if I look at the northern cottonmouth, and then there's all these water snakes. The water snakes aren't poisonous, and the diamondback water snake, the DK brown snake, the common water snake, the southern water snake, all those, they look really similar to the cottonmouth, and you know, living in the South, living in Louisiana all my life, you know, I have snake stories, and I spend some time in the woods and sometimes fishing, and not to the extent a lot of you true outdoorsmen do, but I can remember being really scared because I almost stepped on a big old snake, you know, and I just immediately think it was a cottonmouth because it was always, you know, down by a creek or pond or something, but it might not have been cottonmouth. It might have been a water snake, but anyway, and you know, same way, good contractors, bad contractors, at first glance, they look all the same, but they could be different. Now, one of them, the two snakes that you can really tell that they really aren't harmful, they don't really act that harmful, one of them is a speckled king snake, and the other one is the little green snake. And those, probably 50% of you have those living in your flower beds, whether you know it or not, you know. And I see those snakes all the time when I'm out doing stuff in my yard, which I do because my wife tells me to. Anyway, so that's snakes. That's part one. Second thing I wanted to mention was I just saw something that said that the median house price, which is, you know, it's not the average, that's the middle house price. So if high is up here, low here, right in the middle, house price in America today is $408,000. That's just incredible to me. And obviously our salaries have not gone up in proportion to the way, you know, if you look back 90s, 2000s, 2026, they haven't. and that is why, that leads me to the third topic, is barndominiums. Everybody, barndominiums are a very, very hot topic on the internet and on all kind, do-it-yourself and real estate and all that kind of stuff. And the HGTV, everybody's talking about barndominiums. And one reason why is because it's a way to provide sweat equity. In other words, you can get Mallett to build you a shell, and then you can finish it out, and you can do a lot of the work yourself and save a bunch of money. And I've told you previously that my son-in-law, he's not building a barndominium, but he's building a regular house, and he's doing a lot of the work himself. And he's been at it now for a year or more. He's lucky to have a place to live there on the property, and but he's getting close, and he saved a lot of money, So, and so one of the projects that I would show you on the screen, but it's black, and Tyler's going to work his magic on it in a little bit, is the Todd Wells project in St. Tammany Parish, and it's a barndominium. It's going to be a house, and it's pretty much complete now. The shell is up, and probably I don't know that the concrete's been poured yet, but it's a really neat looking building. It's got the porches, wraparound porches, and it's got I guess it would be called a gable extension, but it's like an L shape. And here, I'll show you a picture of what I'm talking about. You see the L shape, and it's just a very neat looking project, and it looks very homey, and it's green and with black trim. It's nice looking barn door, and we're of course building that one, and and then the next topic that I thought you might find interested. I looked up pole barns on Wikipedia, and now Lee Mallett, the owner of this company, my boss, doesn't like me to call them pole barns, and the reason I'm calling them pole barns is because a lot of people call them pole barns. But I'll tell you why he doesn't like it in a minute. And I looked it up on Wikipedia. Now you say, you might say, well, this is not reliable. It's Wikipedia, Daryl. Well, Wikipedia. The thing about it is, anybody can post anything on Wikipedia. Anybody can amend that post, But when you get into technical things, most of the people that post, it's fairly accurate. And in this case, this little article about pole buildings is very accurate. And you can go there and look at it. But it says that pole framing or post frame construction, that's what Mr. Mallett likes to call it, post frame construction, is a simplified building technique that is an alternative to the labor-intensive traditional timber framing technique. It uses posts buried in the ground to provide the vertical structural support, along with girts to provide horizontal support. The method was developed and matured during the 1930s as agricultural practices changed. And so this, and then it says that pole building design was pioneered in the 1930s in the United States, originally using utility poles for horse barns and agricultural buildings. And that's where it got the name pole barn, and that's what stuck. And I've showed you this before, but I just think it's real neat. I found this. This is the cover of a Sears Roebuck catalog from 1919, where you could look in that catalog and find the barn that you wanted to order, and they would mail you, they would ship you the kit on a big old truck. 1919, over 100 years ago. And so it's been going on a long time. My dad recently turned 91, and he said that he can remember as a kid growing up in rural Louisiana, and that he would order some shoes from the Sears Roebuck catalog, and if they didn't have the kind of shoe that he ordered, they'd just send him a different pair and wouldn't say anything, and he'd just be happy with it. But anyway, so it's been around a long time. Now, the main reason that Mr. Lee wants to call it post frame and not pole barns, and I agree with him, is that we don't use poles here. We use posts, 6x6, and it's #1 lumber, and it's MCA ground treated lumber, and so it is just it far exceeds something that you would say a pole barn. The quality of the lumber and the quality of the connections, fasteners, and everything far exceeds what was going on 100 years ago. We've come a long way, and then also the other difference about the pole barn. So if you ever look, if you ever would look, you probably won't ever look, but in chapter 18 of the International Building Code, there's a formula to determine the depth of embedment required to resist lateral loads on a post. Okay, and the formula is based on the horizontal thrust at the top of the post and the depth of the post in the ground. Now, that sounds like, well, that's kind of what you do. No, but it's really not, because the way that our building is constructed, it's built as a unit, as a big box. And the post frame manual, the latest edition, this says 2019. I think it was just recently edited, and there's a 2020 something version. But anyway, the post frame manual has formulas that takes that box configuration into account, and it takes into account the lateral strength that you get from a diaphragm action of the sheeting. And so pole barn construction has changed a lot in 100 years, and even the design formulas that we use have changed in 100 years, and that's why we call it post frame and not pole barn. But anyway, so it it says in the Wikipedia article, it says, in modern developments, the pole barns of the 1930s have become pole buildings for use as housing, commercial use, churches, picnic shelters, or storage buildings. In the process, more often than not, the poles have become post or squared off pressure-treated timbers, and that's what really we have, squared off pressure-treated timbers. These structures have the potential to replicate the functionality of other buildings, but they may be more affordable and require less time to construct. The most common use for pole barns was on the farm, but today they're used for storage of automobiles, boats, and RVs, or residential garage, or a barndominium. And then it gives some nice pictures of Barndos, and it also gives for the references that it used to put together this article. One of the references that it used was the National Frame Builders Association, which is who we belong to, have belonged to for a long, long time, and who is responsible for the post-frame manual that we used to get all of our formulas for in the design of our pole barns. So, that's the next thing was the Wikipedia article that I thought you might find interesting. But here at Mallett Building, we have a quality product, and we have a product that is cost efficient, and it can certainly be a way for you to get into your house. It may be the only way for you to afford the American dream at this point. And so give us a call, and we have people that can help you, and we'll see you next Monday live.